In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my Australian pumpkin damper. Check it out. Yum. G'day everybody and welcome to my Aussie gardening kitchen. If it's your first time here, my name's Darren, but please call me Daz. And today I'm going to be making a damper for you. In fact, it's going to be a pumpkin damper using my dehydrated pumpkin flour that I make here at home. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get my pumpkin powder and I want to hydrate it again. So I'll just open the jar, which is vacuum sealed. Probably heard that. I just like to vacuum seal it just to keep it as fresh as long as possible. And I've got a half cup of dehydrated pumpkin powder here. And to that I'll just add my water to rehydrate it. As you can see, I've got half a cup of water in here with my half a cup of pumpkin powder. Now that's going to continue to soak up the water, which is doing quite nicely. Now I'm sure some of you are asking whether you could add a dehydrated pumpkin powder straight to the mix, and you can, of course you can. But for me personally, I just like to rehydrate it and getting it looking like this. And then that way I know what kind of moisture I've got with that pumpkin powder. So later on, when I've got all my ingredients in the bowl, I'm not sort of looking at it and thinking, oh gee, is that going to be enough liquid? Is it going to dry out too much with that pumpkin powder that's still trying to absorb liquid? So I like to do it now, get it nice and soft, and then as I'm getting all my other ingredients together, this is still sitting here and soaking up that water. I'll tell you what, it smells so delicious right now. Yum. 3 cups of self-raising flour. Now the thing I like about damper is it's not that reliant on exact measuring like a lot of pastries and maybe some breads are. So if you have a few grams or ounces here or there, it doesn't matter. So of course stick to the ingredients, don't go crazy, but you know what? It really doesn't matter if you miss out on a few grams here or there. No big deal. You want a half a teaspoon of salt. I've got unsalted butter, pop that in. Now to get the fingers dirty. And yes, Mum, I washed my hands. So what we're doing is we're just mixing that butter around with our fingertips, rubbing it in. And we just want to get that butter all the way through the flour mix so it's broken right down, almost like a grainy consistency. Now by mixing the butter into the flour like this, so you're getting that grainy consistency all the way through, like a sandy texture, it's just going to make sure that you've got that butter dispersed all the way through the flour as much as possible. So as it bakes, hopefully all the parts of the dough are going to get a nice little piece of butter in that little section as it bakes. Now if you shake the bowl like this, it will bring the lumps to the surface. And you can pick those out and just rub them in. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. Now for the wet ingredients. Now there are tastier pumpkins, such as say the Kent here in Australia. And by all means, use those if you have them. But we love the butternuts, and I grow quite a lot of them because they're easy to peel and handle and store and things like that. So that's why I'm using butternut in my recipe today. So I'm just going to grab all that beautiful rehydrated pumpkin, drop it into the mix. As you can see, I really am cleaning this bowl out because I want every bit of that pumpkin I can get. And just moving the flour from the sides, and we'll start mixing in that pumpkin. Oh, it smells good. Okay, it's starting to feel a little bit dry. You might be able to see that there. So I'm going to add the remainder of that milk, like so. Now at this point you could add other things. You could add, say, cracked black pepper or sage. Sage goes really well with pumpkin. So I would say cracked black pepper or sage This may be a really nice extra that you could add to this right now. Okay, that's still a bit too dry for me. So I'm now going to actually eyeball it and add the milk, just to get a bit of a dough happening. Now, going back into our history here in Australia, I do believe that the Indigenous Australians would grind down seeds and grains and make a flour and add water to that and make a dough, and then that would get wrapped around sticks and they would bake those over the coals and then eat that like a bread. And then later on in our Australian history, we had what we called swagmen or drovers or stockmen, and these would be men that would go out on horseback, and maybe they had cattle or sheep that they had to move from one place to another, and they might be on the road for quite a while, so they couldn't be taking milk and butter and perishable things like that with them. So they'd essentially have their flour and their salt, and they'd have access to water if they didn't carry it themselves, and then they would mix it all together, make up a dough, bake it in a camp oven on the coals, and in fact they would quite often actually put the dough straight into the coals and bake it in the coals, and then that would sustain them, and possibly they'd eat it with other things as well. Alright, so I'm really happy with this consistency that I can see here. It's nice and sticky, and what I don't want to do is knead it. Now, if it was a loaf of bread, you'd have to knead it and work it and stretch it and carry on, but with this, I don't want to be squeezing and pushing the air out of it, so that's done. I just have to get it off my fingers. Look at the colour, isn't that an awesome colour? And then get this into the actual pot that it's going to be baking in. Okay, so wearing black while working with flour probably wasn't the best idea, but I think I've got away with it. So here's my container. Just going to sprinkle a bit of flour on the bottom, move it around with my hand. There we go. Get this ball out and shape it up into a bit of a ball, like so. Set it in there. Now it's totally up to you. But what some people like to do is they'll actually cut the dough and score it like so, just so it's easier to break apart when it comes out of the oven. So there we go, we've just scored it like so. I'll just move it back to the center of the pot. Tip, before mixing everything, put some flour on your hands and you won't have hands looking like this. I forgot. I just like to sprinkle it on top with a bit of flour. Like so. There we go. And there we have it. That's my damper ready to go in the oven as is. Okay, now I've got my oven preheating at 200 degrees Celsius. In Fahrenheit, I'll pop that on the screen right now. And I'll put it in there for a good 20 minutes. I'll check it after 20 minutes and see how we go. It's been a good 35 minutes, so let's get it out of the oven and check it out. Look at that, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so here we go. This is my pumpkin damper on my cutting board. And of course, for health and safety reasons, my cutting board, that is for bread only. These cutting boards are really cool, by the way, just a little plug. With these cutting boards, I've actually got a link in my description where you can get a set of them, and they have these little diagrams, color coded, so you've got meat, poultry, fish, vegetables, bread. It's awesome. So yeah, just for food safety, it's always good to be using cutting boards for the appropriate foods and not cross-contaminating at all. Anyway, we hear about this damper, so let's check it out. Now, as you can see, I did the crisscross, where you can actually grab it and pull it apart, if you like, into sections. It's a bit of a guide. I probably could have cut it deeper and made those cuts a lot more pronounced, but hey, that's fine. We're actually going to slice this one. Let's go. Oh, look at that. Oh, it smells fantastic. Oh, there we go. Pretty happy with that. It's got a bit of give to it. There we go. Oh, very nice. Oh, I don't know if you can see the steam coming off it. Fantastic. Let's get some butter on there. I'm pretending not to put too much. Pretending. Fantastic. Now, okay, I'm not doing this for the cameras. I'm being quite honest here. Vegemite is something that we eat a lot in this house, as you can see by the size of the container that we buy. I'm putting it on this because that's how I normally do it. So it's not for show. It really is how we eat it. The damper, I mean, whether it's a plain damper or a pumpkin damper. And yeah, got to give it a go. Base is a little bit brown, but I can live with that. And do more Vegemite. Oh, it's so good. You've got to try this, it's fantastic. And of course, Daz approves. If you like this recipe, you need to check out this recipe on screen right now. It's my Australian chocolate ripple cake. It's an absolute winner and you've got to try it. Please consider giving a thumbs up, subscribing, ticking the notification bell to get notifications of when I go live and when I do more videos. Thanks very much and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.